ask some questions. Anybody got anything? Yeah?
So, just sort of devil's advocate, I was in the video codec world. We had a whole bunch of standards and factor standards. It was quite messy. But when do you really want to standardize? I mean, isn't the truth that right now we have enough interoperability in terms of sort of physical protocols that basically a few programmers get together and they write some glue code and they sort of design an API ad hoc for that particular project? And I guess so the question is sort of what's wrong with that model and why is
well,
it so
again, it's that model is
now?
that it's too few people getting together and building their own standard in-house, and no one else has it. You know, the transferability isn't there.
Well, if you do a deal, you get some source code, or you get some APIs that are specific to that guy's thing. You fiddle with your software, and you sort of add another, you know, if-then in your software to work. I'm just saying, you know, people get by to some degree.
Well, people are getting by, and people are getting systems built. It's not like we're all, you know, looking around, not getting anything done.
So what this does is, what is the real value here, that you're decreasing development time, or you're increasing the number of people that will get into the development?
Well, the transferability is the biggest message. Is that, okay, for example, there's a company that built a crawler robot. They said if you break a leg on this or tear it off, it can learn to walk with 3 legs. It'll reconfigure its walking algorithms. And you know, some reporters said this is amazing and this is a huge advancement in robotics. My very first thought was, no, it isn't. It's not an advancement at all. No one else is going to use it. It's never going to leave that room. So you can't say that's a great advancement in robotics. If you look at something like the internet, somebody can make a new widget that's going to work in all the other browsers out there. You know, it's transferable. You know, and then we can start standing on each other's shoulders. And that's the biggest message about word standards and bring to the table.
But it's chicken and egg, because we don't really have enough hardware to test out what you're talking about yet.
I don't agree. I think that, you know, we did a mock-up of a standards, an object model in-house, and it works beautifully. And when people come out with new hardware, they've got to give you an API for it as well. So you load the API. You've got some management code that happens in the middle, but you can have companies do that independently and take care of that. And all you got to do is make sure you got the correct APIs loaded. You can have vastly different controllers.
That's like Microsoft's driving model, not the API, the application.
No, it's actually different. It's different than, well, you mean
like,
just for like computers?
Well, yeah, for like computer hardware, right?
Right.
I mean, like it used to be, you had to talk to the disk controller some specific way.
Right.
One of the things that Microsoft did with DOS and with Windows is,
Right.
you know, there's an API that you see if you're an application
Right.
developer. And this other thing called, you know, the DDK, the
Right.
device driver kit,
Right.
where you sort of ship your hardware with a device driver, and then Microsoft just works and everything. You know, the scanner just works, the printer works, all of that.
Right, and so what you're talking about at this level then would be that your sensor library and control library talking to the API that comes with that bridge work.
Got it. Right.
So like if you load a fidget, you want to use fidgets, it comes with an API, you're going to install that, and now you've got all of your functions and calls that you can do to
Right, I'm just saying that's sort of what we call a driver in the computer.
Absolutely. So, are you saying that you don't see that as a good thing?
No, I'm saying it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's adapting to something we're used to.
Just putting a word on it.
It's software as well.
Makes me understand it better.
Well, you know, in all my discussions with engineers, I try and avoid certain terms now at this point, and I talk in generalities to get myself out of trouble. When I first started using PC-based robotics, man, I got torn apart a few times. So I learned that you got to define what you mean at that point. And in fact, if anybody's got a better term for it, let me know, because every time I get into this debate, they say, well, when you say PC, you get all of this and that.
Well, I think it is very similar to the difference between, like in the game world, I worked on the Sega Saturn, you had to know the hardware. You got the hardware specs and the part numbers. But on the Sony PlayStation, which did a lot better, you had a driver model, which is much more like how the Xbox development works. And now, basically, in video games, even though sort of the pedal to the metal philosophy was we have to talk to the hardware, but now everybody basically uses drivers.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's you don't have to talk to the hardware, you don't even have to know. And that's the goal, is like, as a software developer, I don't know.
But that's a culture change for robotics people.
Absolutely.
They come from hardware and low-level software. They're not high-level software.
And you'll have some people.
They don't like that abstraction. They feel like it's a layer of inefficiency.
Right, and people also feel like you know, you have to understand this stuff if you're going to be a good roboticist. I won't name names, but I've had some people say that to me. Go ahead.
So we have IEEE over in the show over there, and they're starting the West Coast robotics organization. IEEE commonly negotiates standards already,
right.
But I don't know where they're at.
Right. I don't know either. You know, I know different standards have been proposed. We've got some out there. Like I said, we've been talking about this for a few years. It's not like I'm saying anything brand new up here. What I think I'm trying to do is say where those two standards belong and how we can apply them. That's, I think, is a little bit different. You know, we've got a lot of people that are bringing out different sorts of IDEs, you know, development environments and platforms for deployment. But what I keep seeing is that massive gaping hole that there isn't a robotics object model in there. And it's a very simple thing to build. I mean, essentially, it's like HTML for the internet. We need an object model for robotics. And let me give another example. So we talked earlier about how you have a robotic arm. So what you have in there is you have rod components, joint components. Joint components can have subcomponents, which is the different types of motors. And it'd be, what do you have? Is it a servo motor, stepper motor, a DC motor? And then that has to have the proper data inside it. So what controller am I attached to? So like in your example, you're saying, what about the different types of hardware out there? So let's say you've got Fidgets is a different type of controller than the Robotics Connection Serializer. Both of those will have a loaded API. And part of the standard would be when you come out with some hardware, you've got to talk to the standards body and say, what's the name of that piece of hardware? So that people can use that and put it in the model. So when you say you have a motor, some of the information you need to know is what's the hardware, what's the controller I'm attached to, so give you the brand name, what's the port I'm on.
That's like PCI plug and play.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
Absolutely.
You're querying the hardware
Right.
so that you see.
So what happens is when the hardware attached to the controller library knows to talk to that API. So the controller library looks up and says, what am I talking to? Oh, I see it's a Fidget. It's going to go down and say, okay, there's my Fidget API. I know how to do my translations at that point. The plumbing's taken care of for you with the standard. You, as a programmer, don't need to think about the hardware anymore.
You might have configuration files or something to help you.
Yeah,
figure this out.
I think it'll be a dream world where nothing goes wrong. You know,
It's gonna be perfect.
believe me. But that's where we think we need it. You know, when I hear people talk about standards, sometimes they're talking about more in IDEs and things of that, or languages. And to me, if you throw a language in there when you say the word standard, it's an oxymoron. You can't have a standard as a language.
Standard on DI, no one's allowed to use Emacs.
What's that?
We'll standardize on DI as a text editor. No one's allowed to
Yeah,
use Emacs.
absolutely. So to me, it's kind of an oxymoron. The only way we really have that is if somebody has completely dominated an industry, and that is a standard just by default of success. And that's not going on in our box. We need that.